All right. So Nick, can you see the whole
The hierarchy? Yep.
Hierarchy. So this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you're not familiar with it, basically this whole idea that we start with basic needs, and initially it's physiological needs, and then we move into safety and so on and so forth. And so we're kind of hopefully moving up this ladder, but until we can move up the ladder, we should be kind of checking each box along the way. Nick, I know you've got some other language for how to express this, so maybe you can share that for a moment.
Yeah, I've actually, Dan shared this with me this morning. I shared him some of the videos that I'd made previously. I'm always looking at things from a behavior standpoint, right? Dan and I mean, we like to talk about all the intellectual stuff, but how are we actually going to change our behavior? That's really the thing I'm looking at. So we rebuilt this in one of my prior companies, where the very bottom there, the physiological needs, we just call it enough. Right, we keep it super basic, but do we have enough from a nutrition standpoint? Are we eating enough food? Not too much, not too little, but enough. Exercise, are we doing enough exercise? Not too little, not too much, but enough. And then we go through these phases of once your behavior, meaning you actually do enough every single day, you do the things to do enough every day. Once your behavior matches the plan, we move up just one level. So we have enough, balance, structure, novelty, and then complicated stuff. And similar to everything I've seen, especially involving complex systems like biology or business in this case, pretty much everybody can do enough, especially when times are, if we really feel a pinch, we do enough. And once we have that covered, have this propensity to jump straight to, here it's self-actualization, but I call it complicated stuff. And when you jump straight to complicated stuff, see that second one right there that is safety and needs, security and safety. A lot of business owners, a lot of people in general are wishing they would have handled that stuff over the last couple of years instead of jump straight into complicated stuff, right? I mean, that's complicated finance stuff, that's complicated marketing, sales, complicated from a fitness perspective, like really complicated routines, programs, supplements, drugs, stuff like that. So I think enough, we kind of understand, don't always build a robust system for it. And then we have, again, a propensity to jump straight to the self-actualization, or what I call complicated stuff. Yeah. And the thing about complicated stuff too, and that's why I like the pyramid model. Typically I stay away from pyramids. I like the cycles, but I like the pyramid model because the returns are diminished up there with complicated stuff. We have this, I use nutrition a lot, fitness, biology. We have this idea that the more complicated something is, the better it must be, or the more effective, right? The more complicated it sounds, the better results we're going to get. And so I think as we do new things, and as we identify the cracks, because there's some shit going on right now, as we identify the cracks and we rebuild the current things, it's really, really important if we're going to sustain our current revenue and add new streams of revenue in this case. It's really important that we have a system to walk through each step, right? So we get our physiological needs and then build a robust system to maintain them. And then we don't skip to complicated stuff, self-actualization. We make sure we take care of our safety needs, our security. And then we build a robust system to make sure it's sustainable. And for me, it's enough and then balance. Balance is the next thing. And then, we take care of our belongingness and love needs, intimate relationships, friends. And then again, only when our behavior, when the things, our systems are consistent and sustainable, do we take the next step and look at the esteem needs. Right. And I think it's tempting. It's tempting to jump straight to the top. But people are realizing right now they don't have sustainable systems or infrastructure for any of that middle stuff. And that's the pain a lot of people are feeling right now.
That's right. Yeah, thanks for plussing that, expanding on it. And I'll just sort of add on. So we'll see folks try to check the box on enough and then jump to complicated, and sometimes jump to esteem needs, but often are leaving these two foundational blocks: the safety needs and the belongingness and love,
I
completely.
call I call esteem just it's just to throw it out there. We call it novelty, right? That could be vanity as well. So we jump straight to the novelty and the vanity.
So that's things like so vanity. That's things like getting likes on Facebook. That's a lot of times rental properties or other that they want to be able to tell folks that they have all this passive income, cool cars, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we see this trend regularly of going from enough to complicated or to esteem needs, skipping these two pillars entirely. And then when things blow up, relationships blow up, or in the case of a recession like we're in now, they wonder, well, what happened? Well, what happened is you didn't address these couple of foundational things. So what's the relevance of all of that? Well, let's talk about the different types of income. Let's see, we've got a chat comment as well. So there's really three different types of income, and you can read about this, and Rich Dad, Poor Dad talks about this, and he kind of makes it seem like he invented these ideas, but really these ideas or these buckets exist in the tax code and so on and so forth. But active income is stuff that where you're performing a service or selling a product. So it's active. It requires your engagement. And then passive, which is just kind of a buzzword that I dislike it so often that I hear folks say, I really want to grow my passive income. And implied in that really is like, I don't want to have to do active work, which on some level I can appreciate that. But it's easier said than done. And so passive doesn't mean that you don't have to put in a lot of work. So acquiring real estate properties, royalties, patents, licensing agreements, those are things that require a lot of front-end capital, or front-end capital meaning actual cash or intellectual capital, the time investment. And so the danger with the mental trap that folks get in is, well, it's passive. It shouldn't require a whole lot of my capital, my energy. And in actuality, it's just front loaded, really. And then a subset to a degree of passive is portfolio income, and this would be interest, dividends, and capital gains. So these are the different types of income. So let's just tie that back to creating some additional streams of revenue. So when we look at block number one, well, first off, if we go back to kind of your business, what is the product that you're actively involved in? What is the product or service targeting? Is it targeting physiological needs? Is it targeting safety needs, belongingness, esteem needs, self-actualization? What specifically does your product target? And in a period, if it is near the top up here, then chances are in a period of economic recession and turmoil, is that you're going to be disproportionately hit, because people are now, there's a flight to safety is what BNY and Bernstein was saying as it relates to the markets. Flight to safety in that case means people moving to cash. Cash is safe, or moving to treasuries. Treasuries are considered risk-free investments. There's a flight to safety. The same thing is happening with the way that folks are rationing their money. There's a flight to safety, which means I really just need to fund my physiological needs and maybe my safety needs. But again, safety needs is a blind spot. So there's the safety needs of like the hand sanitizer and that stuff. In this case, those might actually be physiological needs right now, right? Hand sanitizer, that's necessary. So maybe you argue that equipment is more physiological, but so those products are selling because they're physiological needs, and the self-actualization, esteem, those are the things that drop off first. Right? And so in terms of hedging your risk and really thinking about developing additional products, what we want to do is kind of fill in these different levels with sources of income. And so taking active. So ideally what we have is both an active product that meets the physiological needs of our ideal clients. So this is like a front-end offer. So in the business-to-business context, it's something that helps them have more sales or more time, things that are going to meet their physiological needs. And that's going to be an active income that you're going to be actively involved in delivering, whether it's a product or service. And then moving up, do you have a product or service that you're actively involved in dealing with loss, some form of loss aversion or safety? So just to sort of give it CPA firm parallel, the bookkeeping and tax work, that's fulfilling a basic need. It's something they have to do, whether they want to or not. Like you run a business, you live you're going to pay taxes. That's a physiological need. The planning, this that we do, the roadmaps, the cash flow engineering, that's about helping folks deal with loss aversion. So that's really kind of a safety need. Nick, anything you want to add on to these?
No, I'm taking notes now. I didn't have my Google Doc ready, so I'm taking notes by hand.
Then when we move into belongingness and love and needs, this is an opportunity for us to generate some passive income in the form of affiliates, revenue shares. What are the relationships that we have? Can we get paid to make introductions to products that we already believe in? So in the relationship front, some passive income where we can leverage the relationships that we have. And in the cash flow engineering, what we do is we have this methodology where we take each vendor and we say, how long have we been in that relationship? And or how long have we worked with that vendor? Is it more or less than a year? And then is it a transactional arrangement or is it relational? And if we have a actual relationship with the vendor and it's been more than a year, then that's potentially a revenue opportunity or at least a cost savings opportunity. But first we need to make sure that we have products that address physiological needs and safety needs, right? Because we know that those are going to be safer sources of income. Then when we move in, then when we check the box on those, then we can move into the esteem needs, which would be passive income from real estate, royalties, licensing agreements, patents. So this is where we created just to use an example, where we created the nth degree network and we are licensing our IP. That's an example of some passive income where we're leveraging an existing asset. And then lastly, the self-actualization, that's where the portfolio income comes in. So when we've got excess capital that we funded from these other activities, then we can invest those funds in stocks, bonds, etc., that will generate some portfolio income. So that's essentially taking this model, this Maslow's hierarchy that we can apply to ourselves and then applying it to our streams of revenue and basically using this mental model as a framework for hedging risks that inherently exist because we're dealing with people, right? This whole notion of animal spirits, the goes back to Keynesian economics from the 1920s. It's this whole idea that the market is really subject to these animal spirits that really the impulse reaction of consumers. And so animal spirits is measured by something called consumer confidence. And it's an extremely sensitive, fickle beast because of the nature of flight to safety and needing to fulfill basic needs. And so if you accept that as just the reality, then if we're going to kind of rig the game to win or rig our financial game to win, let's take this model that we know exists about human behavior and develop sources of income where we can check each of these boxes that then create essentially a hedge within our business. So that's the concept, that's the frame. Let me know what you guys think about that. Literally had this aha moment this morning in terms of how to things that we have been doing in terms of creating these products and how it maps back to Maslow's hierarchy. So just came up with that kind of language today. So if it was a little bit rough, that's because I've been trying to fit this all together for the last couple of hours, but it's been something I've